Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom. Already.
Good morning, all dressed up, Bob.
It's the ultimate day of the year. The last day of the year. We got a lot going on. It's a big celebration day.
Absolutely. And you're all dressed for the occasion at 8:05 a.m. Good for you.
I'm excited. I'm fired up, man. It's going to be a great day. Never too early to get dressed.
Okay.
Although I will tell you, it's a weird day because did you see there are 2 college football games, big games tonight?
Yes, I did.
Crazy that it could be the celebration and big football.
Well, big football usually is around New Year's. It's usually tomorrow, though.
Correct.
Not today.
Yes.
So it is a big day. What's that?
Go Bulldogs.
Oh, you're a Georgia Bulldog fan.
I have a niece who's at Georgia, and she would be frustrated if I did not support the cause.
Fair enough. Well, good morning, everyone, and sorry to all you Alabama, Michigan, and Cincinnati fans. We just upset. So we'll move on with the rest of you who Bob has chose not to alienate.
You don't say that when you say go Bills.
Because nobody likes the Bills but me. So it's, and everybody thinks badly of them. So I'm not offending anyone. They're like, the Bills.
I'm hopping on the Bills bandwagon pretty soon.
All right, well, there's room. There's plenty of room. There's a lot of people who have been beating us up for a long time. So there's plenty of room. That's why nobody cares. They're like, nah, he likes the Bills. Too bad for him. Although we're getting a little bit of revenge on that now. So
yeah.
So anyhow, all right, everyone. Welcome to today's Antidote, our daily podcast and broadcast.
Easy for you to say.
Where we have a conversation around a topic. This week's topic has been ready, set, ... And today, because it's Friday, we're going to go through discoveries of the week. We'll get to that in just a moment. But as we have that discussion, when we have that discussion, if you have thoughts you'd like to share about what you discovered about the week or just something that comes up through our conversation, please feel free to add them in the comments, especially if you are watching this on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, or
LinkedIn Live.
That's even better with you in a suit or, dressed up with a coat and tie.
You want me to dress this way for each episode?
You should. I think so.
I think I only have 2 sport coats with me, so it's going to get a little old. I think I might have 3
You go all sport coat and tie, and I go hoodie, sweatshirt. Be like the Odd Couple.
There's a reference that went right by a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true. Anyhow, if you have thoughts you'd like to share, please put them in the comments. If you are listening to this on our podcast, first of all, we'd love for you to share it with other people because we know that it'll add value to them. You can also rate our show.
5 stars.
Yes, we would love that.
I held up 5 fingers.
Thank heavens. So that it gets out to more people. And if you have comments, the best thing to do is just come to our Ring of Renegades Facebook group and share them in there so that you can be a part of our community and help someone take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. And so the first thing, though, that we do every day before we dive into our topic, and today our discoveries of the week, is we share what we are celebrating. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
Can I be honest with you today, Tom?
You mean you're not honest with me every other day for 480?
I don't know what to celebrate today.
You have nothing to celebrate?
I'm really struggling. It's the first day that we've been doing this, and I'm struggling. Well, and what does that say? And I think you've probably coached some people. I know I have when we ask them, hey, what are you celebrating? And they can't find something. Right?
What do you do?
I usually just have them start talking about what's going on, and then they'll say something, and I'm like, well, I'd be celebrating that. I had a client that, XYZ. Oh, really? Wow. That's kind of cool.
So you have absolutely nothing.
Nothing comes to mind. I had to figure out, well, I guess I should celebrate that I still know how to tie a tie because it's been a while.
There you go. And that you had one down there with you so that you could wear it.
So it was a calculation.
There's that.
I saw something that was going to require a tie, and alas, maybe not.
Fair enough. Well, you never know.
That's right. What are you celebrating?
I am celebrating the end of the year. That's what I'm going to celebrate.
Okay.
That I know that it's interesting to me that people beat up the year. And obviously there have been a lot of challenges. And for some people, their challenges have been significant. So there is no doubt that they have reason to be frustrated or to be upset or be ready for this year to be gone. And I think, like we had a conversation with someone the other day, that if we actually took the time to go back and go through our calendar, really, go through our Facebook feed, that we would find things that we could celebrate that were good about this year. Yes, I'm sure that there are some things that might have been absolutely horrible. At this point now, there's nothing we can do about those. So maybe we have the opportunity as we turn the page on 2021, just like we would say to our clients that when we start our conversations, is that one of the best ways to start the conversation is to find something you're celebrating, to put yourself in that mindset of, I can take the next step forward, whatever it might be. And so that is what I'm going to celebrate, is that I'm going to celebrate 2021. There were a lot of really good things for me. There were some things that were very challenging, and that's okay. That's part of life.
Yeah. And those challenging things probably took you places that ultimately led to good things.
It had an impact on what is real for me. There is no doubt.
Nice.
So, what is the nation celebrating today?
This one makes sense, Tom. It's Make Up Your Mind Day. That's right. Make Up Your Mind Day. Encourages people to quit wavering, to take a side and follow through with a decision and stick to it.
Interesting. I like that.
And I think there's probably at least one decision for each of us that we're not making that we could.
You're probably correct. And it's interesting that that's today and not tomorrow.
Well, I think the logic is make the decision today and act tomorrow. Fair. Set the stage. If you remember a year ago, I was talking about my two companies and merging them. I finally decided this past year to merge them into one. And once I made that decision, I really hemmed and hawed about which one and all these things. Once I made the decision, it was a whole lot easier. I spent a lot of time thinking through a decision that is really cosmetic. No one cares.
Well, you care.
I care, but none of my customers are going to go, oh, I'm not going to work with you because of that name, or I'm not going to work with you because of that logo.
Fair.
And so I think that making up your mind is a powerful thing. And this might be one of those days where a lot of people are taking stock of what happened this past year, what they want to happen this next year. And it could be decision time on things.
Well, it's interesting. As you were saying that, the first thing I could think of was that is the final step before go, right? Is that, we've talked all week about ready, set. And a lot of that is the preparation and planning. And I think I shared yesterday the challenge of sometimes people get stuck always planning and always preparing and never making that decision and going forward, which might ultimately be the most difficult part of all of it, is not even necessarily making the decision, because I know people who make the decision and then don't choose to act on it. Maybe one of the things that's interesting about that is that once you make the decision, you immediately act on it, rather than, even though it's set up this way as today is the make the decision day, and as you said that, well, okay, tomorrow is the take step. What's fascinating to me about that is you're encouraging people to make a decision today on a night when they are likely going to go out and do all sorts of crazy things, potentially, likely not want to get up in the morning and take that first step, maybe not even all day. And this week, they wouldn't have really the opportunity potentially to take that step till Monday if they chose. And how much can happen between making that decision today and Monday that might keep you from doing that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fascinating that today was make a decision day.
It's December 31st every year. So
True.
It just so happens this time it's a Friday. 2 years ago it was what, a Tuesday or Wednesday?
And every December 31st is New Year's Eve. So many people like to go out and celebrate that.
Right.
Then they're going to be off for many people on the 1st. So even then, a lot can happen from a night out and about celebrating, a whole day of relaxing, the next day to get up and be like, do I really want to take that step? Because one of the challenges that could happen is you share that with someone. And they might say, well, have you thought of this? And that might take you all the way back to needing to feel like you need to do more planning or more preparing. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's my discovery of the week, but that's just something that I came up with. What are some of your thoughts from this week?
First thought is I didn't know where this would go this week at all. We don't script this program. I think that's obvious, but we usually come up with a topic and we just sort of found our way. And I think what really jumped out at me was how much goes into the pre-action mode. And you've used the analogy of a runner all week. And I use some other things. Like, I was thinking yesterday, if you're making someone dinner, you have to go buy the groceries. You have to pick the recipes, find out what they like and don't like. Those require forethought. In fact, that's what's really nice when you go to someone's house and they make a dinner that you love. And it's like, how'd you know I love lasagna? It's like, well, I asked around, or I remember you were at a party with me and you mentioned lasagna. You're like, oh, how many times have you made lasagna? Never before. And you're like, wow, how enchanting to me. So the lasagna tastes better because the person put the effort into it. And I think that's a way of looking at this, that the action we take will probably feel better and probably land better because of the things we did in preparation. We didn't just go willy-nilly, let's do it or not do it. There was forethought. There was like, does this fit the timing? Does this support our goals? All those things. And I think sometimes we act without that forethought and it tends to bite us. And sometimes we act with the forethought and it's not the best decision.
Sure.
That does happen. I'm not saying, if you take a week to plan and figure out what you're going to do, that's always going to be right. That doesn't work. But your odds of doing better and making a decision and the result probably increase when you actually take time to think through it. I worked for a boss at one time who would say, we had a decision to make, and she'd ask two people, you argue that side, you argue that side. And we would argue it, and she would listen, and she'd ask questions. It was like a courtroom hearing. And at the end, she'd say, that makes sense. Everyone agree? And everyone's like, yeah, it really does make sense. And we would act based on that. And it was her way of making sure that all the information got to the foreground. And one of the things that we always brought up in those discussions was the emotional aspect. She would ask, what's the emotional decision? And it would be like, well, emotional decision, if we do this, we won't have to lay off people. It won't do this. It won't do this. Okay, that's great. Can we put that aside? Yeah, once it's addressed, yes. So then it became a business decision.
I like that.
I thought that was an interesting way at going at these things because this was an organization that was going through a lot of rapid change. They had lost their marketplace a lot, and they had to really adjust a lot of things dramatically. And those meetings were brutal because you knew going into that meeting that when you came out of that meeting, what you thought was going to be going on was going to be different. And I was one of the people that got to tell people about it. And but it worked in the fact that we thought about things and we planned and we prepared. And there would be times where we'd be at one meeting and the leader would say, "Hey, who wants to go investigate this?" And come back next week with these questions answered. And I was often the person doing that. And it was interesting because I would go in and they'd say, "All right, Bob, what did you find?" And I'd give them the facts. This is what, and then it'd be like, "Oh, okay. Now let's go through a debate."
What's interesting about that is all I could think about as you were talking about that is the benefit that organization had is that they had enough people to have those kind of discussions where they could actually consider the various perspectives. And I think all I can think about were small business owners or entrepreneurs who don't have that necessarily in their business. If you're the head of a small business, with a bunch of employees, you might go out and ask your employees, and they might not have the perspective that you need to be able to. You might
scare them.
Correct.
Hey guys, I'm thinking of getting rid of this product line, and what they hear is, "Oh, now I've got to call a client and tell them that we're not working with them anymore."
Or it's the product line that I create.
Yeah.
What does that mean for me?
Or there goes my commission for next year.
Sure. And if you're an entrepreneur, or solopreneur, you're likely looking around and being like, "All right, who am I having that conversation with?" And I think that's, one of the biggest challenges, and probably why a lot of people don't do the whole ready, set part, or maybe at least not as much as they could, because they don't have people to have those conversations to understand, like, all right, well, I'm sitting here and saying, here's my plan, here's my preparation, I'm going to go, without really considering more perspectives. And I think that's where we as coaches can be really valuable, is to come in and just have those conversations of, I'm thinking about this, and I have no one to talk to about it. I have no one to bounce this idea off of, no one to give me either side, so that I can now start to figure out and make my own decision for what I think is going to be most effective given what I have. As we talk about all the time, we only have our own knowledge, experience, and perspective. And unless we go around and start asking other people, that limits us in many ways. And so the opportunities to find that. So if that's something that you are experiencing yourself as you listen to this, let Bob and I know, and we can have a conversation about what that looks like, and how the Renegade Success Network might be the place for you to have that kind of feedback, support, knowledge, experience, and perspective to help what's happening.
And Tom, maybe it's helpful to people, as you were saying that, it was kind of big picture, maybe giving people some of the things that we've helped people with in the last year, some of the topics. And I was just thinking off the top of my head, how to schedule their day, how to focus on projects, how to price, how to go into a new market area, how to network, how to do sales calls, how to find partners, how to put together a contract for a key employee, how to figure out some of the tax issues. Those are some of the things, and I don't know if you have things to add to the list. Those were just off the top of my head.
There's also how to be a leader.
Yeah.
What does that look like? How to manage people, how to manage your supervisor, or at least deal with your supervisor when there are challenges there. All of those things, anything that you address as a leader, small business owner, entrepreneur, nonprofit professional, homemaker who's trying to figure out what do I do next? I think that's the biggest challenge for so many people, is they don't know what to do next. And so they do the best they can with what they have, which is an option. And another option is to say, you know what, I'd like a little different perspective. I'd like a little help. While this seems small, the longer I don't deal with it, the bigger it becomes.
Right. And you and I worked on one of these things with me, a personal thing yesterday afternoon.
Correct.
And it was like, okay, let's go through the process, Bob. And Tom asked me questions and I answered, and it was very liberating. I wasn't in a place of inaction and I wasn't in a place of blaming myself. I was in a place of, okay, wow, that makes sense. And it actually led me to do two things last night that I wouldn't have done otherwise.
Well,
And
I think
that's what I see with other people that I work with and that you work with, that instead of spending 5 days spinning their wheels and trying to figure out what do I do, where do I get business cards, what should the logo look like, or how am I going to talk to this employee about this issue, we have that discussion, help them figure out what they're trying to accomplish and how to accomplish it in the most effective way. And then they're off on their way and they do it. And what's the thing they typically celebrate the next time we talk to them? That thing they just did that we helped them find a way to do. Because it's like, wow, I got unstuck. I fixed this. And like everyone else, as soon as you get unstuck once, you're going to get restuck again. That's why we give unlimited laser solution sessions, unlimited 15-minute calls where you can talk to us about these issues. And you may say 15 minutes is not enough time to have any kind of effect. I can tell you, Tom and I have really gotten good at 15 minutes. We can really help you figure things out. And
here's the thing.
You did it yesterday with me.
Here's the thing I think about it is, for us, as we're in the moment trying to figure these things out, they are huge things.
Oh, yeah.
We cannot see how that could ever be solved in 15 minutes. For someone on the outside who's trying to help you work through that, there are only so many things to consider. I mean, yes, could you sit here and spend 2 hours trying to come up with absolutely positively every option? Of course. And yet you'd throw out 80% of them. The opportunity is to, how do you get out of that stuck mentality and into, hadn't thought about that. Oh, that's interesting. This is something, oh, you know what? I know somebody else who did that. And maybe that's worth.
Or I dismissed that.
Correct.
How many times has someone said, what I was going to do is this? And it's like, okay, why wouldn't you? Well, I came up with that idea before I knew this thing. It's like, oh, does that change it? No, I think that's the part of this, that this is what you and I have been doing for each other for 10 years now, probably?
At least, yeah. And
we really found the value to our own. Selfishly, when I would hang out with Tom, we'd go have coffee and it would be like, I got to come with something for Tom to help me with because he's really good at this. We didn't know that's what this would be then, but it really set the stage. So this is not some, marketing scheme that we just made up this strategy and we're going to get rich from it. This is genuinely how Tom and I interact in the world a lot.
Sure. Well, and I think one of the things that's interesting in it, and it's going to tie into my discovery of the week, is one side or the other, you're going to have to, there's work to do to figure out. And I almost think it is in I don't know how to say this. It is the proportion. If you do 20% planning and preparing, after you go, you're probably going to have 80% of work to figure out and really evaluate, why did it go, what went well, what didn't go as planned, and what would I do differently? And if you spend, so the more time you spend planning and preparing, likely there is less time on the other side trying to figure out what happened. Now, I'm not going to say that you should spend 100% of your time planning and preparing, because then you won't ever launch. You won't ever take action. I almost think there's like a 50-50 balance. And I kind of like that as I'm going to put in whatever I put in to prepare and plan, I'm going to spend the same amount of time on the other side measuring and evaluating, not looking at my results, but measuring and evaluating and figuring out, okay, based on what I did, what did I learn? And then take that same amount of time and now apply that to the next step so that you are constantly moving. I think so often we either spend no time planning and preparing or very little. And then even though we don't realize it, we spend a lot of time on the back end, usually judging the results. There are other people who spend 100% of the time doing it, planning and preparing, launch, then spend zero time measuring and evaluating. They're just, okay, that's our results. Now what do we do? And I think that if you can start to think about that as for every project or every action you have, how much time are you going to spend planning and preparing? Plan to spend the same amount of time on the other side measuring it. So the work is going to have to be done. And I just think that if you can balance it, you're probably going to drive yourself a lot less crazy, and you might get stuck less.
Well, and you start to see trends and ideas and ways to move forward that aren't there if you're not looking at it. You know, I think one thing I've noticed in my career in the last couple of years is the more I look at what I do or don't do and think about what I've learned, the more powerful I am going forward. And I never used to do that. It used to just be, let me slide through and figure it out. And then I was just go, 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 go. And the ready set was only when it was obligatory. And so much of after go, looking at what the ready set for the next thing would be, would have really helped me. And not even the ready set, but whatever the next two words should be. Like if there's a ready set and then there's a go, the next should be measure and follow up, right? Well, or whatever the case might be. Maybe you've just given us the following week's programming.
Maybe.
I was hoping next week would be go.
Well, I think next week should be go.
Okay, good.
Kind of like Monopoly. We played Monopoly the other night.
Oh boy!
And
you told me you played Cheater's Monopoly, right?
Cheater's Monopoly was very interesting, but you still got $200 when you pass go. I think you always want to go.
Tom likes to collect the Monopoly money.
Correct. So we're going to. I think next week we should definitely do go. It's the start of the year. Yep. Great topic for the start of the year.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone for being a part of our discoveries of the week. If you have discoveries that you would like to share, please feel free to put them in the comments. Or you can go to our Facebook group and share them in our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Not a member? What a great way to start the new year is to join our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and just ask to join. And then tell us why you're a renegade, and you can become a part of our growing community, over 1,100 strong, who are helping one another take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. And so, on this ultimate show of the year, Bob and I would like to wish you a happy new year. And we look forward to 2022.
Can I also add, thank you everyone for your comments, for your attention, for just what you bring to this. This has been, the last year of doing this has been really, really exciting. I've learned so much. We've seen so much happen from it. It's really gratifying. See, if we were a national TV show, Tom, you know, the last news show of the year, if you watch like NBC News tonight, they run the long credits with every single person. They play, you know, they have holiday pictures in the background and they play nice thematic music and they roll through everyone. Even the interns get their names on.
Nice.
So I thought we'd do that, you know, and I'm trying to think of some of the people that have helped us over the year that really made a difference. Jordan Shagru would be one.
Sure.
Did some background work, and a lot of other people really have contributed. So
and my dog, who continues to bark throughout the show.
Your dog, as well as your wife, Liz, who does that great introduction for us, and also corrected us on when the solstice was the other day.
Yes, absolutely, which was very helpful. Yes.
Indeed.
All right, everyone. Thank you. And find a thing to celebrate around 2022 or around 2021 as you prepare for 2022. All right.
Of course, embrace the renegading you.
And
make up your mind.
It is a great day to make up your mind. All right, everyone. Have a great day. We will see you in 2022. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group.
For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.